The semifinal round of the Smash Beer Oktoberfest Nationals would kick off with Aaron Coltier on the pole for Semifinal A over Melissa Whitley. Coltier took the pole by having the better fastest lap time in his race over Whitley. The top 16 finishers plus 2 wildcards from each race today will advance to the final. Aaron Coltier settles into the lead over Melissa Whitley, but in the back we've got all the orange and blue cars coming together. That was contact between Daryl Quick, Skeeter Farnsworth, and Ben McClellan, with McClellan going around, and there are 2 cars in the wall up there in turn 3, but McClellan chases after Skeeter Farnsworth and spins him around coming to the caution. McClellan apparently blames Farnsworth for that incident and needed to do something about it. After the restart, Greg Woodard and Brandon Krasta found the wall, and we've got another small pileup off of turn 2 with Ryan Walker, Mike Malone, and Truman Ellison. One car smoking there, that's Tony Long, who goes out early. Alyssa Helms would also drop out with engine problems in the ensuing caution. Meanwhile, Aaron Coltier loses the lead to Melissa Whitley, dropping back to 4th on the restart, and Whitley's car owner, Dave Hetzel, gets turned hard into the wall by Thomas Kohler, and another big pileup off of turn 2, and cars just keep coming. That's Michaela Perry-Jones and Ryan Walker piling in. That's the end of the race for the 93 and 41 W. Hetzel was trying to give room to Billy Ray Smith-Thompson in the 42 there, who's been very aggressive in his charge to the front as he gets into Anthony Griffith and then puts Aaron Coltier into the wall. Aaron Coltier finds his race going downhill very quickly. A round of pit stops ensued under that caution, but Patrick Ashcroft skipped out on that, taking over the lead over Truman Ellison and Mike Malone, who were involved in an earlier incident. That's J.A. Devon in the 28 JD, a lapped car that also has damage. Race leader Melissa Whitley restarted in 11th, but right in front of her, it's round 2 between Skeeter Farnsworth and Ben McClellan. Whitley goes into the wall, and these two are continuing to chase each other around the track. McClellan goes around again. Anthony Griffith and Timothy Ruiz are involved, and Carter Fitzgerald gets into the side of the 8ZZ, and that's going to take her out of the race. Carl Hampton in the 99 would also drop out of the race under the following caution. Patrick Ashcroft would make his first stop of the race, putting Mike Malone in the lead, and right behind him, the lapped car of Keegan Mallory is making life difficult for Greg Woodard and Mark Thompson, the points leader, coming into this race. Mike Malone is back in his own car this weekend after a disappointing run with the Lou Singer team. Meanwhile, pitting on that last caution may have been a mistake for Patrick Ashcroft, as 3 wide just doesn't work between himself, Chuck Johnson, and Grant Carsons. That puts the 939 hard into the wall, along with Brandon Krasta, and that takes Patrick Ashcroft out of the race after being up front for such a short time. Malone and a few others pitted under that caution, which puts Rick Forrest in the lead for the first time since the 1 lap he led after winning the quarterfinal A pole. It's good to see Pearson Sweeney Motorsports helping Rick Forrest make that car faster, despite the need to focus on Billy Ray Smith-Thompson and his championship effort this weekend. But Forrest has to come down pit lane along with a lot of the other leaders during a caution after Noah Dallett spun. Mike Malone cycles back to the lead, working on the lapped cars of Anthony Griffith and Ben McClellan. Mark Thompson gets into the back of Greg Woodard. Woodard goes careening through the grass back into Thompson, and the 98 goes hard into the wall. And Mark Thompson, the points leader, gets taken out of this race. He'll have a provisional to get into the final if the Walker Texas Racing Team can get a backup car ready, but we've got another pileup coming back to that caution. Alfred Jones, J.A. Devon, and Tim Ruiz are involved, as well as Melissa Whitley and Brandon Krasta. That's a lot of damage to the 662 of Melissa Whitley, and she will drop out of the race as well. On the restart, Kerry Fenton and Truman Ellison are fighting for the 3rd spot. That all goes wrong as Ellison gets into the wall. Greg Woodard in the 410 gets involved in another one. I don't know about you, but I think this has been the most destructive weekend of the whole season, and it just won't stop. Anthony Griffith gets turned around by Kerry Fenton now, and Tyler Thaber, the 3-time FARC Truck Series winner this season, had nowhere to go. These races have definitely been more about survival than anything. If you can make it to the end, you're almost guaranteed into the next round. we finally get a green flag run of more than a few laps. It was Chuck Johnson trying to chase down Rick Forrest, coming back to another caution. And Carrie Fenton's got a problem. She drops to the inside, and Aaron Coltier just doesn't seem to know that she's there, and Mike Malone goes for a wild ride thanks to Truman Ellison. Malone, Ellison, and Fenton are all going to drop out. Chuck Johnson tries again, coming after Rick Forrest for the lead with the help of the lapped car of Grant Carson's, and Chuck Johnson leads at the line. That's going to get him 5 bonus points, even though he is quite a long shot for the title. He's trying everything he can with Mark Thompson out of the way. Billy Ray Smith-Thompson is further back in 10th place. He's got some damage, and he's got even more problems now as he has to come into the pits for a cut tire, and I think they discover even more problems with that car because he's going to drop 3 laps behind. And now Chuck Johnson's got a cut tire. He pits from the lead and will lose a lap. So Mark Thompson's main rivals just can't capitalize on his crash earlier in the race. That puts Rick Forrest back into the lead, but now Riley Durbin has a problem running in 4th place. He can't make it back to the pits. This is going to draw the 13th and final caution of the race. At least it's not for an incident, but this is going to put Riley Durbin out of the race. Rick Forrest continues to lead on the restart. He's got just 12 laps left to try to capture his 2nd career FARC Low Dollar Series victory. His first, of course, coming in last year's season opener with his own team, an upset win that helped him get into the number 8 Pearson Sweeney ride. But right behind him, here comes Alfred Jones, John Dilks' protege from the FARC Super Series in the number 21 Turf War Racing Machine. This team competes in late model racing across the Midwest. They were going to enter with their regular driver who was injured late in the season, so Alfred Jones stepped into this ride, and now he's challenging for the lead. Kurt Pliskin in the number 12, the Master Cup Series superstar, right behind in 3rd, but he just can't quite get up there to fight for the lead. Rick Forrest back to 2nd, defending that challenge from Pliskin. Alfred Jones wasn't able to win in his first year in the FARC Super Series, but that doesn't matter as Alfred Jones and Turf War Racing are now winners in the FARC Low Dollar Series, taking Semifinal A. Rick Forrest had a much better car in this round, but still faded to 2nd, frustratingly enough for that team. Kurt Pliskin took 3rd. Brandon Cresta and all the incidents he was in today took 4th, and Noah Dalitz grabbed his first career top 5. Only 16 cars finished this race in a weekend that has been all about survival, so one of the wildcard spots will have to carry over into Semifinal B. Timothy Ruiz, after the last wreck he was in in and out of the pits for the rest of the race, so he finished behind Riley Durbin, but he will get that transfer spot over Durbin because, of course, Durbin dropped out after his car broke down. And of course, Mark Thompson crashed and will have to rely on a provisional and a backup car. Fortunately for Walker Texas Racing, even in this tough weekend after losing their primary sponsor, they do have a backup car ready, and it is the very same car that Kurt Walker himself passed Mark Thompson on the last lap to win in San Antonio with. So that'll be interesting for Thompson to step into the car that gave him some early season frustration. Congratulations to Alfred Jones and Turf War Racing on their first FARC Low Dollar Series victory, but now we move on to Semifinal B. Joshua Pacer, who held off Megan Gallagher to take the quarterfinal D win, took the pole over Joe Olenek in the 23. Pacer and Olenek look pretty evenly matched halfway through the first lap, but Pacer finally gets the edge and will clear the 23 at the end of lap 1. A small incident between Tommy Bongwell and Kelly Splicen would bring out the first caution, and during this yellow, Woody Watts becomes the first car to drop out. He got into this race on the wild card, but he blows up. And Nick Azure breaks down coming to the restart. Marissa Raines piles into the back of him, and Tommy Bongwell gets involved in another wreck. Marissa Raines will drop out. Nick Azure gets a tow back to the pits, but he will rejoin the race. And coming to the restart, Aubrey Wood, who finished 2nd to Joel Lennox in quarterfinal C, would also blow up and drop out. Huge disappointment for that small team. Jim Kidd leads on the restart, inheriting it after some of the leaders pitted. during the various pit cycles under the last 2 cautions. He pulls away from Megan Gallagher and Packer Carroll, still looking for his first win of the year. Joshua Pacer gets into the back of Aiden Shepard and puts him into the wall as he tries to climb back through the field, a little too aggressively. And now Kelly Splicin, more problems for her. She goes flying through the grass after contact with Barry Henry Jr. right in front of Rip Tyler. A lot of damage to the front end of that 16 car. Megan Gallagher and Eric Cardona are also involved, and Tommy Baumwell gets into the 96 once again, which does them both in. Kelly Splicin had a lot of momentum on her side coming into this race with some top 10 finishes in recent events, but her season is now done. Zach Webster, Kelly Splicin's teammate, now cycles to the front with Dan Lechleiter right behind him. More problems for Joshua Pacer as Alex Constantine and Samantha Mason tangle in front of him, and he comes flying back up in front of Mike Grabowski. Joshua Pacer had made his way back up to 9th before this. Constantine's problems aren't over yet as Harry Asanola gets into the back of him after the restart, and that takes Mo Lester into the wall with them. Daniel Lechleiter did take the lead from Zach Webster coming back to that caution, but he had to pit with a cut tire, and now it's Aiden Shepard coming after Zach Webster for the lead with a pretty aggressive move into turn 3. Shepard's car obviously not hurt after hitting the wall early on. But now Tom Briggs Jr., who made his way up to 5th, gets tagged and hooked into the wall. After contact with Barry Henry Jr., Alex Constantine piles into him, and that's going to take Constantine out of the race after being involved in 3 wrecks in a row. Zach Webster pitted under that last caution, made his way back up to 6th, but now he breaks down and comes to a stop on track. Webster will get going again, but nowhere near the front. Inheriting the lead now will be Phyllis Theodore in the number 404 Dilpair Transmissions machine. 2018 has been a season of great improvement for Theodore. After finishing last in the 2017 FARC Super Series points, she grabbed her first 2 wins this year. But the leaders slow down as we've got yet another caution. Watch Ivan Barnes and Megan Gallagher behind Bobby Porteau. 4 wide doesn't work. Ivan Barnes goes careening across the track, and Bobby Porteau, the reigning FARC Super Series champion for the 2nd year in a row, goes head-on into the wall. After the restart, Joshua Pacer and Jim Kidd are going to get together and go into the turn 4 wall, and Joshua Pacer goes up and over, and that will take him out of the race. He led early on, but after falling back through the field thanks to pit stops, he just kept getting caught up in incidents. And after that restart, Zach Webster tries a little too hard to get one of his laps back, puts Phyllis Theodore and Aiden Shepard, the cars running 1-2, into the wall. You may have seen Joel Lennox sneak by. He's going to take over the lead. He's been making his way back through the field and avoiding all of the trouble. But we aren't done wrecking yet. There's Ivan Barnes and Dalton Carter getting together, along with Todd Stater. Mo Lester gets into the back of the 395. There were a couple of big hits in there, but nobody will go out because of this. But after the restart, Megan Gallagher is going to get turned by Todd Stater, sending Zach Webster up and onto his roof, right in front of Mo Lester, who was having a good race, but he and Zach Webster are going to get taken out. And that's the end of the season for Accelerator Motorsports, with both of their cars out of this race now. Good news for everybody else, the field is thinned out enough to get some green flag laps in, and Joe Olenek absolutely takes off. The battle is for 2nd between Aiden Shepard and Kevin Monroe. Kevin Monroe, the 18-year veteran of the FARC Low Dollar Series, who only stepped down from full-time driving last year, is not making it the easiest for Aiden Shepard, the rookie, only making his 2nd attempt at a race. He attempted last year's Rockford 200, but Aiden Shepard finally gets the upper hand and will move into the 2nd spot. But that's as far as Aiden Shepard's going to get. Joe Olenek carefully worked his way through the field, avoided trouble, and even though he's caught up in some lapped cars now, that's not going to bother him. Joe Olenek takes his 2nd win in a row. This team he's driving for, Quinnipiac Motorsports, owned by Matt Carano, competes on the East Coast, and they're looking to break into FARC for next season. They're pretty much going to have to at this point with a brilliant debut so far. Despite seeing 14 cautions in this race, one more than in Semifinal A, 20 cars finished, so one car will be getting bumped, and that would be Nick Azure. Jonathan Douglas grabbed the final transfer spot. Dalton Carter, Melissa Plord, and Pierre Sebastian, who was in and out of the pits all day, will get the wild cards heading into the final. The field is set. Now let's have a look at the point standings. And it's not looking great for Billy Ray Smith-Thompson, who trails Mark Thompson by 96 points. He gained just a little bit, but pitting late in Semifinal A cost him a lot of points, and Chuck Johnson is officially eliminated from championship contention. He will now have to defend third place from Anthony Griffith and Todd Stater. Mark Thompson only has to finish 25th or better to clinch the championship in the final, and Billy Ray Smith-Thompson will need Mark Thompson to not only finish below that, but he will have to win the race while leading the most laps. That's a pretty tall order, but with a whopping 250 laps left to run in the final, that's a lot of time for something to happen. Who will take home the 2018 FARC Low Dollar Series Championship? As always, you'll be able to catch all the action right here on the FARC Racing Network.